I want to welcome you all this morning to this Zoom call to get a little information, hear more about the project, Philippi Project, which is a ministry that is for veterans and their families, and could potentially be ministry for active duty servicemen and women as well. And I have with me today, Reverend Walt Garrett, who is a pastor at First United Methodist Church in Benton in Saline County. And he has some friends with him who are part of the Philippi Project at Benton First. And if it's okay with you, Walt, can we make some introductions just kind of all the way around the room and find out who everyone is, and for veterans or active duty, I would love to know your rank and where you served, what branch you served, if possible.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Those who are joining, good morning. Glad to see you guys. I'm Walt. I served here at Benton First. I was former Air Force from 03 to 08. I served at the Air Force Academy right after I graduated, and then I served at Randolph Air Force Base. And then I served in Elmendorf Air Force Base in Alaska, and with a deployment to Honduras for a little bit. And it was a good time. And we moved to Arkansas because my wife's service, she still serves up at Little Rock Air Force Base. So, former Air Force captain. So, and then I will go ahead and pass it over to Nathan.
Yeah, I'm Nathan Looper. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I served from 97 to 2001. I've served kind of all over Okinawa, Japan, Beaufort, South Carolina. I served on a 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit in the Mediterranean, so I went to a bunch of different countries. I served in Kosovo in 1999. And I've been, since I got out, I've been serving veterans and as a veterans education coordinator at National Park College in Hot Springs, and then as a veteran service officer here in Saline County. Just spent my whole life helping veterans.
Yeah. Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for your service.
Good morning. I'm Willie Rudolph McIntosh. That's my Christian name, but I ask for Rudy. I am an Army retired Sergeant Major. I was in the service from 1963 to 1990, and after which I went to work for VA for about 11 years. I've been to Germany, Honduras, Vietnam about 2 or 3 times. And I want to make this clear, I am infantry. But anyway, I'm glad to be on here.
Thank you. Thank you for your service, Rudy.
Good morning. I'm Russell State. I'm a retired U.S. Navy Master Chief. I was a Fleet Marine Force Corpsman with the 2nd Marines, which means I'm a Marine that doesn't eat crayons. And I served 6 years, and I would do it all over again if in a heartbeat.
Well, it is nice to meet you, gentlemen, and again, I think I speak for all of us. Thank you for your service. We are eternally grateful. Walt, if you would like to go ahead and just jump in and share with us a little bit about the Philippi Project and how this got started, and then we can maybe popcorn some questions back and forth and let some of our friends be able to share what this ministry has meant to them and how they are involved, and then allow people to ask questions as well, if you don't mind.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this ministry started out of a conversation that actually Rudy and I had back in May 2022. It was after a meeting. I was actually telling Rudy yesterday this story. It was after a missions committee meeting and Rudy said, I want to do something more. I'm not sure what, but I want to do something more. And at the same time, Rudy and I were having this conversation. My children's director here at Benton First was texting me and said, "Hey, I think the children area is on fire. We can smell smoke. So could you come up and see? We may need to evacuate the church." So Rudy and I were walking with a purpose down the hallway, and I had to say, "Rudy, this is great, but the church may be on fire, and so I need to go upstairs and see what's going on." Thankfully, the church wasn't on fire. It was just a burnout AC unit that was bringing in smoke into the children's area. But immediately after we got calmed down, I got into the car. I had to drive up to Little Rock um, to uh, to pick up my wife's car. It was at the dealership. Uh, there was this moment as I was calming down and taking in everything that I had this thought, and it came out of nowhere because I was still dealing with the possible fire and the roof, the ceiling that was torn down from the firefighters that were here checking everything. It was Rudy Benton Veterans Ministry, and I said, "Oh, that's interesting." Um, but then from May 2022 into July, there were a few other events, church members that came to me that said, "We need to do more with veterans." And because of that moment, that experience I had in May with Rudy and the Holy Spirit, my antenna was a little higher than normal, than usual. And so these events that were happening throughout the spring and summer of 2022 brought to mind this opportunity that we do need to do something more with veterans. What exactly, we don't know. But the first thing I want to share, and the first thing I want to encourage all of those who are on or all of those who watch, is this is not a ministry that is just clergy led. This was actually a lay-led and Holy Spirit-filled ministry that started that way. And I want to encourage you to if this is one person's idea, wait for the Spirit to speak to you. Wait for other laity. See if you can get laity, or if you're laity, see if you can get your clergy involved. Make it a team event. And guys, I think this is a great place to start of how you connected to the ministry. Where did you connect to the ministry? Rudy, we can go ahead and start with you because we already made that connection.
In my service to this country, I met a lot of young people that love this country. They were dedicated, and some gave all gave some gave all. And with the events that's going on today, I have thoughts about sometimes that people and attitude I knew in the military and the way they love this country, how would they feel today? And when you talk about a veteran, you're talking about someone who sacrificed, not only the veteran himself, the family. You're talking about someone that has given just about all of they had. Now, as I think about these young people and how they would feel today about what's going on in our society, I think that they would not be pleased. They would not be pleased with what's going on. Freedoms that our grandfather not only did, not only to all the freedoms that they fought for. I'm not sure if they would be pleased with what's going on today. And I think we as a society, that's why I always talk and praise Pastor Ward about taking a thought that we talk about, and elevate it to the point where we are right now. And I think that our veterans deserve to be recognized, to be acknowledged, and recognized for what they did. And it is only because of God, mercy, and grace, and the veterans that we have our freedom today. And as a retired Army Sergeant Major who loves his country very much, I hope that we were able to recognize a bit on the Veterans Day, elevate that to where every day there's talk to that, not only to say, I'm proud of your service, but is there anything I can do for you? So that's is probably that's my feelings, period. Now,
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Hey, Walt, turn it towards you. The mic, sorry.
Well, and that comes to one of the first parts that I want to share, that this ministry will connect with veterans in your church. Once you start looking and asking, one of the first things we did as a committee was just look in our church and ask who our veterans are. Sometimes because sometimes people wear it very proudly, and other times people just wanted to have served their life and then come serve back their community. But first, one of the first steps we made, we're trying to recognize the veterans in your community and in your church. So that would be one of the first steps that I would take is just figure out who are veterans. Just ask that question. You may know, you may think you know, but just ask that question. And Rudy was very good, and so were Sherry and Terry Johnson and other church members, just to say one of the things that we found out was the veterans who wear their veteran status on their shirts and hats and shoulders, they're the people you can ask first. Like, hey, I know you're a veteran. Who else in the church are veterans? And who else can we gather? How can we recognize them? So thank you, Rudy. I'd like to share with Nathan, because Nathan, the way Nathan connected to this ministry is something that I can't wait to lift up and encourage you all to make those connections. Nathan's a member of New Life Church here in Benton, but I'll let Nathan share of how he connected to this ministry. But it's a very important part. So go ahead. Let me turn this in. We're gonna get a better mic after this.
So as I mentioned, I've kind of served veterans my whole life. But in particular, how I came into this ministry, I was the Saline County Veteran Service Officer. So I met Pastor Walt and Rudy. They happened to just, when they started this, they came over to my office and we just kind of, talked about it. And of course, I was extremely interested. I was extremely busy. We are a very busy county, but the thing is that as a service officer, you see the direct need of the veterans in your county, and as somebody who worked in the education side, as somebody who's worked in the benefits side, there is an extreme need and there's an extreme gap in service to veterans, and it's as a veteran himself and as a Christian who just hurts for people in general. It's very hard to see that and to see the disappointment and the frustration and all those things. And so, and as a veteran who suffers from a lot of the things that veterans suffer from, it's kind of one of those things I empathize, and being a part of this ministry, it was important to me because I know the need to connect. There's the importance of veterans to have other people. I mean, that alone is one of the biggest benefits, because there's just so many, like you was talking about, getting to know who your veterans are in your church and in your community. Well, that's the ones that are loud and proud. There's the others that don't talk about it, that want to isolate. And so those are the ones we're trying to reach. Those are the ones we're trying to get out and bring into our group. And that's part of this too. And it's so ministry is great on a number of different aspects, because hopefully, we'll talk about this later, but hopefully the goal is to, grow it and to get some sort of, build that community and help, hopefully, community wide, county wide, statewide, however that goes. But we want, the biggest thing for me as a veteran that I've seen over the 20 years that I've served is the connection, because when most of us service members get out, we lose that, and that's needed, because it's like that service that you prided yourself on, it's gone. And so I feel like that's part of the reason I want to be a part of this ministry, and I hope that we can build upon it.
Thank you, Nathan. And
Thank you, Nathan.
the men and women who are veteran service officers. They're not in every county in Arkansas, but every county is connected somehow. Some veteran service officers share counties, right?
Right.
So your veteran service officer, either in your county or the veteran service officer that shares counties with a county that you're in, is a crucial person to introduce yourself to, and to just start asking questions about how you can connect with veteran services and what's going on in your county to help veterans and to serve veterans. Because after we got a grasp of who our veterans were in the church, so the first thing we did was recognize the veterans. Who are our veterans? And then the second question we asked was, how can we thank our veterans? And after talking with Nathan and other veteran service organizations, we figured out that there, as Nathan said, there is a gap with your service and sometimes then the benefits that you are afforded as a veteran. And so in the fall of 2022, we as a veteran group here at the church started meeting and talking about how can we help our veterans, not just here in the church, but in our community, connect their service and the benefits afforded to them. And we came up with what we called a Veterans Benefits Briefing. And that happened on Veterans Day 2022, where we hosted a community-wide gathering. We had 80 people from the community here. We had veterans. We had our veteran service officer come and speak. We had the chief medical officer from the VA here in Central Arkansas come and speak, and different people from the VA come. But the one thing that we did as well, in addition to hosting a lunch for our veterans in our community, and we brought in people from the VA that actually had laptops and were able to help those veterans that came with any type of benefits questions. And what we came to find out was, out of the 80 that came, 10 of those actually signed up for new benefits or had benefits questions that got those benefits questions fixed. So those first two steps that we did was recognize those veterans and then figure out a way to thank them. That was what we did. And so that's where I think, Russell, you come in, right? And so starting benefits. You're a member at Joint.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. At the time that this benefits briefing had, I was the district commander and the post commander, post 19, American Legion post 19 here in Benton. And so got to talking to Walt, and we immediately connected. And so, he told me what he's got going. I said, dude, I'm here. Whatever it is that you need, I will help you any way I can. And so, that's kind of where I am. Anything that I can do to grow this ministry, I'm all about it, because, and I have at times debilitating PTSD, and I know that these three guys right here, plus all the other veterans in this church, have got me. And I have most of their phone numbers, and all I got to do is pick up the phone or text. And so, and in fact, the Bible study after New Year's Eve I had missed because I was, but so I know that these guys are, they're praying for me and they got me, and I've got I've got nothing to worry about as long as I'm, plugged in with them. And so, I'm just here to help, and where this ministry goes, only God knows. But I'm gonna be here till then. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for sharing that.
And I can't wait to share at the end. Hopefully, we'll have a couple minutes, but about some dreams and visions that these guys have brought to the ministry. But what Russell and Nathan and Rudy and I have seen is it shouldn't just stop with an event. So if a church, if you as a church come to start recognizing your veterans in the church, and then you figure out a way to thank them at the same time or right before the event, you need to figure out a way of how you can gather those veterans uh, into a small group and invite them into to have conversation, to stay together. Not only is it a great evangelical tool, because again, we have guys who are not from Benton First who come into the doors of our church every month, who get to gather, but it's also an opportunity for the Holy Spirit to work. And what we did for that third step, so it was recognize and thank, and then we used a good military term. The third step was mobilize, right?
Right.
And really, it's gather. It's invite those veterans who we've recognized and thanked. And at that thanking event, it could be an event on Veterans Day, or it could be just an event that you do with your community. When you make those community connections, be amenable to team with your community on events that they already have going. They want other veterans to be a part. And when your community hears that you're doing a veterans ministry, people will be excited. There will be the veteran service organizations will want to work with you and be ready for that. But the way that we mobilize those veterans that joined us at that event was we did two things. One, we handed out a devotion that is produced by Cokesbury. It's called Strength for Service. And this devotion was written back in World War II and given to troops that were deployed in the European and Pacific theaters. And this was written for our GIs back in World War II. Well, what happened was in the late 90s, a Eagle Scout saw this old devotion on his grandfather's nightstand and said, I think we can do more with this. And they got with he or she got with Cokesbury and actually got these Strength for Services reprinted with some new devotions, but still every devotion in each of the months comes from World War II era. And we were talking to an active duty chaplain yesterday on one of our calls. And when I lifted up Strength for Service, he said, "Oh yeah, I got 100 of these waiting for me." And he was in Romania. So it was awesome. They're still being used by our troops today. So we handed these Strength for Service devotions out to every person who came to the event. And then for our gathering event, we just said, "Hey, we're gathering a veteran-specific Bible study once a month." For us, it's the first Wednesday of the month at 10 a.m. And what we're doing is we're going to use the Strength for Service devotion for that day. And so we just started that in January of 23. And one of the group was funny because we've reached a year. This was 13 months that we've done it. And they all kind of came to the January group and say, "Well, what do we do now? We went through the whole devotion. What do we do?" And I said, "Well, let's start over, right?" And so we started over and had a great conversation about it. But I think the third step for us was figure out a way to gather, to mobilize the vets. And I do want to open it up to the three of you. What are some of the things that you've appreciated, or what are some of the things you've gotten out of this monthly Bible study for veterans? And the floor is open. We'll just move the computer. Anybody want to share?
I really appreciate this group. It does a lot for me. Not only to give me an opportunity to hear similar experiences and problems that we have, and we feel comfortable getting together and talking to each other from my point of view, and which I think is good. And I think every vet needs that. And I think a very important question that you should ask a vet is, after you thank him, say, "What can I do for you?" And
Mm.
take that as a building block on whatever program you're doing. And that's very important because, if you talk to a vet, I think if you really want to communicate with it, just ask him, "What can I do for you?" And he'll tell you. And you go from there.
Since it's by me, I guess I'll go. My very first Bible study that I came to, and I think it was one of the first, I walk in the room and it's like old home week. Some of the guys I didn't know, some of them I did, but it was like we've been friends forever. And it's like, if you're in Home Depot or Walmart and you see two guys hugging, well, chances are really dead gun good that they're veterans. And so that's kind of the way it is. And so from one time to the next that we meet, it's just like we're catching up. And Walt is probably going to touch on this, but one of the great things that we did as a end of the year thing at the beginning of the news, we had a veterans breakfast at a local restaurant, and it was fantastic. The camaraderie there was just it was unbelievable, and I can't wait to do it now. Thanks.
Thank you.
Oh, like I said, I've mentioned before, like I said, I've worked with veterans and I've seen kind of the issues, and I have had some of the issues. As far as for me, like right in my current moment in life, I'm a kind of a stay-at-home dad, so the isolation for me is pretty hard sometimes. And so even the once a month, like just get together with these guys and girls, is just very important to me, to have that connection and then to know that I can reach out to any of them, because again, like I said, it's it's those that don't have those connections is where we're dropping the ball. And I feel like I've seen it. I've seen it as a service officer, as a education rep. I've seen that veterans will come to other veterans, and like Rudy said, you ask them what's wrong, they're going to tell you what's wrong, and they're not gonna hold back anything, especially if they know you're a vet, and you're gonna tell you what the VA's done wrong to them. They're gonna tell you what the VA hasn't done for them. They're gonna tell you what the military did. So it's having that community, that kind of openness to where they can come and be with others and kind of feel like they have somewhere to go. It's huge. And so to me, just that's the important, is the community aspect of it, and to have that, even if it's just one, to have that one phone number, that one person that you can, just like in any church or Bible study, you got that mentor or whatever like that. You always want to have a community. You don't want to be alone. So I think that's the biggest aspect for me, is just to have somebody.
Thank you. While you're rearranging microphones for who's going to speak next, I just can't help but just reiterating for the few of y'all that do not are not members of a United Methodist Church. I don't know if you've ever heard of it as a United Methodist Connection. There, and that is one of our one of the biggest gifts of United Methodism is our connection to one another and providing space for people to be connected and to know more about Jesus. And I just can't. I just keep grinning the more and more I hear you talking about this, because this is just such an incredible opportunity that just fits right under the Wesleyan tradition of gathering and supporting and worshiping and studying together. And I just, anyway, it's exciting. It's exciting. And I also want to say that, you know, and I see we have several senior pastors on here, and I know that, you know, you can't just say, hey, we're going to do this because it's your idea. You know, we can't just we're going to start you know, say a youth group, or we're going to start a women's Bible study, or we're going to start a veterans ministry. You know, you can't do that without laity buy-in and without laity support. And you see by what Reverend Garrett has presented, how powerful the laity support is for this ministry, and how he's been able to work with a couple of individuals to be able to go, okay, what would you want? What, as a veteran, what do you want? What can we do for you? What is going to be a blessing in your life? And then be able to go from there, and not just go, okay, we're going to have a big dinner. And I don't know who would want to come, and I don't know who's going to want what, and I don't know if we're doing this right or not, but to actually be able to speak to the people that are, that this ministry is for, and finding out from them directly, and not just basing a whole lot of speculation on, well, let's just, you know, see who shows up. And but that this was very intentional, even though it has started with just a very small group. It has been very intentional in the way that it has grown. And I wanted to make sure that everyone takes note for that. And as we were visiting yesterday with several other pastors, some active duty and veterans in our annual conference who are clergy here, they were, you know, some of them had said, you know, I don't know that this ministry is going to fit my context. I don't know that this is going to fit. And then there were others that said, this is totally going to fit in my ministry context. But the first thing I've got to do is I've got to meet with my veterans, or I've got to meet with my leadership team, or I've got to have more conversation. And so, you know, that's how good things start, is prayer and conversation, and knowing, you know, having connections with the people that you are wanting to serve, and not just trying to guess at what they need and what they want. So anyway, I just wanted to chime in on that. Well, I'd also like for y'all to talk about something that we discussed yesterday with our veteran group of clergy here in the Arkansas Conference, and that was, so many of our veterans these days are young, are in their 20s, and that it also is proving to be a little more of a difficult age group to reach. But could anyone talk about that, and about, you know, potential for opportunity of including young veterans as well?
Ma'am, if it's, before we move to that question, I'd like
Yeah.
to go back and just
Yes,
calculate on something that you said.
please.
What Reverend Ward is doing, you know, in our conversations as veterans, you know, I don't know if this is a unique leadership skill he has, but he has the ability to take what the discussion, what all the discussion, and kind of package it so that we can apply it to our lives. So what he is doing as a leader in our group makes sense. It's something that we can use. And I would suggest whoever the leaders that you pick that has that same ability. Because when I walk out of that meeting, I have something to think about, or something to apply. So I think that's why And I think at this point, I can say that that's why I think he is so effective.
Agreed. I don't think anybody on this call would disagree with you. Thank you for sharing that.
This is true.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rudy. Turn the mic towards you.
So the question about younger veterans, as you see, we got some youngish guys. I'm not going to tell Rudy's age. He had recently had a birthday. He's 39 and holding, we'll say. But we are most of our group right now. We have one Korean War. We have a lot of Vietnam vets. We have OIF, OEF. That's the most recent, Afghanistan and Iraq. But the majority of the group is our Vietnam era vets into the 80s. So I think we have some Desert Storm as well. But I shared yesterday that we do have some vets here at the church that were OIF, OEF veterans serving from 03 to 2003, which these gentlemen served in, myself included. Some of them have been hesitant to join the group. We have connections, of course, with them, but some of them are just not ready to take that next step. And yesterday we had a conversation about, well, maybe that there may need to be generational groups for your veterans ministry. Maybe. As someone brought up, well, maybe one of the groups can be a general veteran group, and then maybe you're going to have a younger vet group, because while we share this veteran moniker together and service together, what Rudy went through in Vietnam is different than what these guys went through here in OIF, OEF. So that's something that we here at part of our veteran ministry are still trying to come to grips with, but we don't have an answer yet, but we're praying over it. And Nathan, I think you can speak to this probably as well as anybody.
Yeah. So I think I'm not so much sure that it's that. So my opinion on this, and it's an opinion, so don't write it down, is that part of the age issue could be tied into the fact that, just a life circumstance, where a lot of veterans that are in that age group, are working. They have families, they have things going on. And I know when I was working at the college, a lot of the service organizations, were desperately trying to get younger people into the service organizations. The issues were sometimes, not always, the issues were sometimes the service organizations were meeting middle of the day during the week or whatever like that. Not always. Like I said, I think Russell's meets in the evenings or whatever. But the thing is that they weren't really accommodating to younger veterans.
Right.
So I think it's an issue of maybe exploring kind of how to accommodate reaching out, and of course the era of social media and other things like that, that's going to have to be a way to connect somehow. But I really think a lot of it has to do with, it's not so much they don't want to be involved, it's just the fact that it's a life issue thing, and I think if they knew that if there was something just out there right in front of them, like, oh, if it's posted on a billboard, like, hey, there's a veterans meeting monthly or whatever like that, and they knew about it and it happened monthly and they could plan for it, I think they would be there in a heartbeat. Like, I don't think there would be an issue with that. I just think it's a lot of the issues with the VA in general, and I keep saying VA because the VA is a massive thing, and that's where there's so much information that's there that a lot of veterans can't find, and there's a lot of information there there's good information, but they don't know how to access it. They don't have. But as far as veterans in general, I think it's just they don't know where to look for those things, and so it's our job to get that information to them. And so with these groups or whatever like that, it is going to be a challenge, but it's a matter of just, presenting those opportunities to them, and they will come. It's kind of one of those, I feel like if they know it's there, if they know a time, and they know that this is a regular thing, and that there's groups out there, they'll show up. They may trickle in, but like our group, it's grown, and it'll continue to grow. It's just that most of them, in my experience, they don't know. And they don't know where to look, and they don't know who to ask, and sometimes they are afraid to ask.
Sure.
So that's really
thank you for that. And I have a question. Brenda Henson, who is on the call with us, has a question. She has raised her hand, and I would love, if y'all are ready for questions, I would love for her to be able to ask you a question.
I don't. Can you give us a specific example? You said that it's hard to reach younger veterans. Is that what you said? What you said? You say you have is that what you're saying, ma'am?
I haven't said anything yet.
When you first asked was that that was a problem reaching younger veterans. Sorry. Okay.
No, let me just say this, and why I'm here. I am not a senior pastor.
Okay.
And I'm here primarily because I always like to know what ministries are going on in the conference from other churches and what has happened. Because one of the things about, and this is my laity perspective, many times laity may not know what other churches are doing. And so we always are reinventing the wheel. But as Amy said, we are connectional. So we share information and share opportunities. I just wanted to say I thank you first for putting this on so that I could join in and listen. And thank you, gentlemen, for being willing to make these presentations and inform us. But some of the challenges that are lifted are simply challenges of today's society. Look around at the growth of the churches. Where are the often young people? That's what the issues are often. They are seeking, they want to be connected, they want to feel a part, but sometimes they think their life situations have never happened to anyone but them. And we may be and they think we're talking a different language, which often we are. Because speaking for myself, I don't know what you're talking about. So I had to go figure out what they're talking about. I have a 16-year-old granddaughter. I like to spend time with her, but I always have to ask her to explain what is going on in her head because I've gotten comfortable in my generation. So the challenges you're lifting up, I think they are the general church's challenges. But I want to thank you because you're informing me. I'm now aware of this ministry. We have veterans, and this would be very helpful. But one thing I have learned is that often a church has to offer laity opportunities to where they can connect. It doesn't just have to happen at my church, but we want our laity involved in mission and connecting with people in the community, different communities. So I'm going to get off. I have another Zoom meeting, but I wanted to just thank you. Thank you, Amy. Thank you, gentlemen, for giving me this information. And also, I will share this on a broader scale. My senior pastor is off on a trip, but she works all the time. So I will share this with her because I know that she would want to give the congregation an opportunity to connect and support. And we can do that in many different ways. So thank you, thank you,
thank you so much, Brenda. Always glad to see you.
Ma'am, I'll say this, offer the veteran an opportunity to come in. Invite them in, all right? And they'll do a great job for you.
Yeah, we'll probably call you for a special presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Appreciate you. Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Walt, do you want to, I know you have offered like some steps as far as what you all have done through the Philippi Project Ministry at Benton. I know you mentioned to identify and then thank and then mobilize. And I wanted to see if anyone has any questions that might be that this may have struck a chord, that this could potentially be something of interest for congregations, or and maybe Walt, you can share with us, how do you identify who is a veteran in your church? I mean, do you just ask on a Sunday from the pulpit? Do you ask in a newsletter? How do you go about doing that?
Yeah, two things real quick. That question about how do you recognize your veterans? How do you know who's a vet and who's not? Yeah, for us, it was as simple as announcing it from the pulpit, saying, "Hey, we are trying to figure out who our veterans are." So, because we have an opportunity for us on Veterans Day to thank them in a unique way. When we started announcing this, we didn't know exactly what we were doing on Veterans Day. We just knew we were doing something. So we started announcing it from the pulpit. We created through our church's Gmail, Google Suite, a email, a veterans ministry at fumcbenton.org. So and put that within our communications in the bulletin, via email, via social media, via the old school bulletin boards around the church. And we asked them for a few things: their name, of course, what service they served with, when they served, and what their job was, what their MOS, AFSC, I don't know what you Navy guys call it, but MOS, okay. So we can, that's an important thing. We joke and josh about it. We have a Marine, an Air Force guy, an Army guy, an infantry guy, excuse me, and a confused naval guy. There's some jokes there. But we have Coast Guard. We don't have any Space Force guys or gals yet. But it's as simple as asking. And one of the things that we've as Rudy shared with Brenda, ask the question, invite them into the conversation. And a lot of people that I didn't know were veterans came up and said, "Oh yeah, I served in the Air Force, or I served in the National Guard, or I served in the reserves." So it's as simple as asking, being persistent in asking. And also, I think the thanking is something that was crucial for us, because we said we are doing something with this. We want to thank you in a different way, in a unique way, in a way that maybe you've been waiting for, searching for. We don't know. So yeah, it was identify or recognize and thank, and then gather, mobilize. And the last thing I wanted to share until y'all can ask questions. This group can chime in. When we started gathering for the Bible study, some of us had some ideas on. We want this group not just to gather, but we want to do something with the skills and abilities veterans bring to the table. Because veterans do bring a lot of skills and abilities to the table. One, just working and with various people from various backgrounds and at various times, and that's important within our country and our communities now. Just to work with different people, being comfortable with that. But we had some thoughts and ideas of what we wanted to do, and we still do have some thoughts and ideas. But a couple things came out of just gathering and asking the question, guys, what can we do? As a group, and asking that question, hearing conversations, and letting the Holy Spirit speak. One, as Russell and Nathan spoke to, we're starting a community a breakfast time in a local restaurant. I don't even want to call it a greasy spoon because it's great. But we gather, we wear our shirts, we wear our veteran stuff, and we just talk. And last time Russell from his post brought 4 different people, and because it was very noticeable that we were veterans, the conversation and the camaraderie. Some other people said, "Hey, what are y'all doing?" One person bought our coffee for us, and and so we thought that was going to be a one-time event. It's going to be a monthly event now. Just getting in the community and inviting people into that conversation and say, "Hey, if you want to do more, we meet once a month at a Bible study. Come on." And then second, here recently, we're starting this next Wednesday. One of our local nursing homes is working with the VA for a lockdown unit for veteran specific persons, for specific veterans. And they just opened that in the fall, and a conversation started, well, how about we go serve veterans in nursing homes? And it just happened that a nursing home locally is working with the VA. And so we're going into that lockdown unit next week, and get to listen to them, those veterans at that nursing home, and see what their needs are. But so the 4 steps for us to this point were recognize, identify, and thank, mobilize or gather, and then serve. You can have some thoughts and ideas on how you want to serve, but again, listen, and not just to one another, but the Holy Spirit. And that has done wonderful things. And guys, I don't know how you want to go from that. Do you all want to share anything with that?
I mean, I think it's one of those things too that can vary by community. I think that's when we originally talked, when I met with Walt and Rudy, was, I worked with a lot of Vietnam era, World War II era, still Korean era. There's still some of those World War II guys still around, and a lot of which before I got into the service officer position, I didn't know. I thought I would just be working with veterans trying to get their benefits. I didn't realize how many of the surviving spouses that I was going to be assisting. I didn't know that side of the things, and I didn't realize how many of the veterans that, I didn't know anything about what's called veterans pension or survivors pension, which is like a low income thing for survivors and veterans that, just aren't getting disability benefits or whatever. So a lot of those veterans that are older are in assisted living or nursing homes. And so that's where kind of this conversation came up, because I realized that, and I knew from the 10,000 plus veterans that are in our county, is that there's a lot of them that don't have anybody to come see them, don't have, they're just there alone. And I would get phone calls from them monthly, just because sometimes they just wanted to leave a voice, wanted to call, trying to just talk to somebody. And that's kind of where this minute, when Rudy had mentioned the nursing home thing, I was like, yeah, I think that's a great idea, because there's so many of those, that need just, again, it's just like with us meeting monthly at the church. Even not just veterans, there's a lot of elderly people in nursing homes that don't have people come visit them. So, this is something that I think it'll be really good, and we're really excited about, because, like I said, it's finding out your community. Once you get your group in, you talk to your veterans. What is the need? It could be, there could be a lot of, of course, there's a lot of homeless veterans out there. We've discussed, getting supplies and things like that, maybe at some point, if we need to, just kind of having, if we have the ability to do that. So it's just figuring out what those are, and figuring out what we can provide, and then, just going from there. But again,
Right.
letting God lead all that.
Yeah. Amen. That's awesome. It has been about an hour And we are going to need to close. Several people have sent me messages that they needed to get to other meetings and Bible studies. And so I just want to leave with one question. Walt, will you be a contact if folks are interested in learning more about the Philippi ministry project, and or if they're just interested in exploring a ministry for veterans and families in their own ministry context? Will you be the contact for them?
Certainly. Go
Perfect.
ahead and you can email me at Walt, WALT.Garrett, GARRETT, at ARUMC.org. And this is an open invitation as well for those who are still on with us or those who are watching. If you want to come down and just be a part of any of our ministries, the Bible study or the coffee and breakfast gathering, or come on, as Russell said, come on. And we want you to come, and we would love to share. And if you have specific questions, if any of these guys, you heard something from these guys that you want to talk to them more, just let me know and I'll get you in contact.
Thank you all so much for gathering with us this morning. And I look forward to seeing this ministry grow and, just the movement of the Holy Spirit through the Philippi project. So one more thing, Rudy.
Yes, this is the Reverend Dr. Denson, has he ever been in this area? Were you ever here?
Rudy,
Daniel,
Yes. Okay.
what's up, man?
I'm saying, what's going on?
Yeah.
Nice to see you again.
It's good to see you, my friend.
All right. Y'all take care. Thank you so much. Appreciate
Take
you.
care.
Bye.